Chapter 1. The Cry in the Storm. The wind howled like a dying wolf, tearing through the thin fabric of Eva's coat. It was the kind of cold that didn't just freeze skin. It froze hope. Just a little further, Eva whispered to herself, her teeth chattering so hard it hurt. Just find the firewood and go back. She was a servant in the Silver Moon Pack, the lowest of the low, an Omega with no wolf, treated worse than the dirt beneath the Alpha's boots. Her task tonight was a death sentence. Venture into the forbidden forest to gather ironwood for the Alpha's fireplace. No one went into these woods during a blizzard. No one who wanted to live, anyway. She was knee-deep in snow when she heard it. It wasn't the howl of a beast. It wasn't the wind. It was a sound so small, so fragile, it nearly stopped her heart. A cry. Eva froze. "Hello," she called out, her voice swallowed by the gale. The sound came again, a weak, strangled wail. Eva abandoned her search for wood. She pushed through the biting thorns of the underbrush, her frozen fingers numb. She stumbled into a small clearing, and there, half buried in a drift of pristine white snow, was a bundle wrapped in nothing but a torn velvet blanket. "Oh goddess," Eva gasped, falling to her knees. It was a baby. The child's skin was blue, its tiny lips pale. It had stopped crying, its eyes fluttering shut as the cold claimed it. It was alone. Abandoned. Left to die in the territory of the merciless Alpha King, a land where weakness was culled. Without thinking of the consequences, without thinking of her own freezing body, Eva reached out. "I've got you," she sobbed, stripping off her own threadbare scarf. "Please hold on. I've got you." The moment her fingertips brushed the baby's ice-cold cheek, the world exploded. It wasn't a sound. It was a sensation. A searing heat hotter than a branding iron tore through Eva's right palm, the hand that touched the child. "Ah!" she screamed, falling back into the snow, clutching her hand. She expected to see blood. She expected to see a burn from the cold. Instead, a golden light pulsed beneath her skin. It swirled like living ink, etching a symbol she had only seen in history books. A crown entangled with a wolf's jaw. The mark of the kings. The baby's eyes snapped open. They weren't the eyes of a normal infant. They were glowing gold, shifting into a deep, endless violet. The child didn't cry anymore. It looked at her, and warmth, impossible summer day warmth, radiated from the small bundle, melting the snow around them in a perfect circle. Eva stared at her hand, then at the baby. The mark on her skin pulsed in time with the baby's heartbeat. Thump thump. Thump thump. "What are you?" she whispered, terrified. Before she could move, the ground shook. The snow behind her exploded as four massive shapes landed with the heavy thud of predators. Eva scrambled back, pulling the baby against her chest instinctively. She looked up into the snarling jaws of four massive timber wolves. They were huge, their fur bristling, their teeth bared. But they didn't attack. They lowered their heads, ears pinned back in fear? Oh, not fear of her. A fifth shadow emerged from the trees. This one didn't look like a wolf. He was a man, tall and broad, wearing a fur cloak blacker than the night. His presence alone made the air feel heavy, suffocating. He stepped into the clearing, his boots crunching on the snow. He didn't look at the wolves. He didn't look at the baby. He looked straight at Eva. His eyes were the color of molten gold. The Alpha King. "Who?" His voice was a low rumble that vibrated in Eva's chest, touched the air. Chapter 2. The King's Judgment. Eva couldn't breathe. Alpha King Kaelen. The tyrant of the north. The wolf who never sleeps. Stories said he killed his own brother to take the throne. Stories said he had no heart, only a block of ice where it should be. And she, a nameless servant girl, was holding what he called the heir. She scrambled backward, clutching the baby tighter. The golden mark on her hand was still glowing, burning against the freezing air. She tried to hide it behind the baby's blanket, but Kaelen's eyes missed nothing. "I asked you a question, little mouse," Kaelen said, stepping closer. The heat radiating off him was intense, melting the snowflakes before they could touch his dark hair. I found him," Eva stammered, her voice trembling. "He was dying. In the snow." The king stopped 3 feet away from her. Up close he was terrifyingly beautiful. Sharp jawline, a scar running through his left eyebrow, and an aura of power that made her wolfless instincts scream submit. "Found him," Kaelen repeated. His gaze flickered down to the bundle in her arms. The baby cooed. It was a happy sound, completely at odds with the deadly tension in the clearing. Kaelen's expression shifted. Shock? Disbelief. It was gone in an instant, replaced by a cold mask. He reached out a gloved hand. Give him to me. Eva knew she should obey. He was the king. She was nothing. But as she moved to hand the baby over, a sharp pain shot up her arm, stemming from the golden mark. Her fingers locked. Her body refused to let go. Eva gasped, fighting her own muscles. I can't. The 4 guard wolves growled, stepping forward. Kaelen raised a hand, silencing them instantly. He narrowed his eyes at Eva. You refuse your king? No, tears pricked her eyes. My hands, they won't move. Please don't hurt me. Kaelen took a step closer, invading her space. He didn't reach for the baby this time. He reached for her hand, the one clutching the blanket, the one hiding the mark. He ripped her glove off. The moment his skin touched hers, a spark of electricity loud enough to crackle snapped between them. Kaelen hissed, jerking his hand back as if he'd been burned. Eva stared at him wide-eyed. Kaelen looked at his own hand, then at hers. The golden mark of the crown and wolf was glowing so bright it illuminated the dark forest floor. Impossible, the king whispered. The cruelty in his voice was gone, replaced by something unreadable. He looked at the baby, then back at Eva. The heir has been missing for 3 days. Kidnapped by traitors. We assumed he was dead. Kaelen crouched down, bringing his face level with hers. Do you know what that mark means, girl? Eva shook her head, too terrified to speak. It is the guardian's bond, Kaelen said softly, his voice dangerous. Ancient magic. It means the heir has chosen you. His life is now tied to yours. If you die, he dies. If you leave him, he fades. Eva's heart hammered against her ribs. She was a servant. She cleaned floors. She didn't want to be tied to a royal baby. She didn't want to be anywhere near this dangerous man. I just wanted to save him, she whispered. You did more than that. Kaelen stood up, towering over her again. He turned to his guards. Bring the carriage. Now. He looked back at Eva, extending his hand again. This time he didn't demand. He waited. Get up, he said, not unkindly but with absolute command. You are coming with us to the Obsidian Palace. For how long? Eva asked, her voice small. Kaelen's lips curled into a dry, humorless smile. Forever. Chapter 3. The Cage of Gold. The carriage ride was silent, but the silence was loud. Eva sat on the plush velvet seat, the baby finally asleep in her arms. Opposite her sat the Alpha King. He hadn't taken his eyes off her for the last hour. She felt like a specimen in a jar. She was dirty, her coat was torn, and she smelled like cheap soap and fear. He was immaculate, radiating power and the scent of pine and rain. What is your name? Kaelen asked. He didn't blink. Eva, your majesty. Eva. He tested the name on his tongue. No surname. Servants don't have surnames in the Silver Moon Pack, my lord. We are just help. Kaelen's jaw tightened. Silver Moon. Alpha Draven's pack. He looked out the window at the passing trees. Draven is a fool who starves his people. That explains why you look like a gust of wind could knock you over. Eva looked down at her lap. She was thin. She knew that. Food was scarce for Omegas. Why does the baby glow? Eva asked, surprising herself with her boldness. Kaelen's gaze snapped back to her. His name is Lucian. And he glows because he is of my bloodline. The royal lichens carry the fire of the first stars. It usually kills anyone who touches them when they are in distress. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. That is the mystery, Eva. You are human, aren't you? Or a wolf so weak I can't smell it? I have no wolf, she admitted, shame burning her cheeks. I am latent. A latent wolf, Kaelen mused. Touching a royal alpha in distress should have turned you to ash. Instead it bonded you. The carriage hit a bump and Eva gasped, clutching Lucian tighter. The golden mark on her hand flared again, sending a warm pulse through the baby. Lucian settled immediately. Kaelen watched the interaction closely. He feeds on your energy. He is drawing strength from you. Is that bad? For him? No. For you? Kaelen's eyes darkened. It will drain you. If we don't sever the bond or stabilize it, you will wither away until there is nothing left. Eva's blood ran cold. So I'm going to die? Not if I can help it, Kaelen said firmly. You saved my son. I do not owe debts lightly. The carriage began to slow. Outside the window, massive iron gates loomed, guarding a palace carved directly into the side of a black mountain. The Obsidian Palace. It was beautiful and terrifying, just like its master. Listen to me closely, Eva, Kaelen said, his voice dropping to a serious whisper as the carriage stopped. Inside these walls there are vipers. Court members who wanted my son dead. They will see you, a latent, low-born servant carrying the future king, and they will want to destroy you. Eva hugged the baby to her chest. Then let me go. Please. I cannot, Kaelen said, reaching for the door handle. As I said, if you leave him, he dies. You are his life support now. The door swung open, letting in the frigid mountain air and the blinding lights of the palace courtyard. Hundreds of wolves stood in formation waiting for their king. Kaelen stepped out, then turned back, offering his hand to help her down. Stay close to me, he commanded, his golden eyes locking onto hers. And do not show fear. If they smell fear, they bite. Eva took his hand. His grip was iron strong. As she stepped out into the light, a collective gasp went through the crowd. They weren't looking at the king. They were looking at the glowing golden mark on the hand of the servant girl holding their prince. Chapter 4: The Viper's Nest. The grand hall of the Obsidian Palace was larger than Eva's entire village. Black marble floors reflected the light of crystal chandeliers, and the air smelled of expensive perfume and raw power. Eva walked half a step behind Kaelen, her head down, trying to make herself invisible. But it was impossible. She was carrying the royal heir. Every eye was on her. She could hear the whispers. Who is that? Servant? Look at her clothes. Is that the prince? I thought he was taken. Look at her hand. By the goddess, is that the guardian mark? Kaelen ignored them all. He walked with a predator's grace, cutting through the crowd toward the throne at the end of the hall. He didn't stop until he reached the dais. Summon the high priestess, Kaelen barked at a guard. And bring food. Meat, bread, fruit. Everything. He turned to Eva. Sit. He pointed to a velvet chair near the hearth fire. Eva sank into it, her legs shaking. The warmth of the fire was heaven after the freezing forest, but her nerves were frayed. My lord, a silky feminine voice cut through the room. Eva stiffened. A woman stepped out from the crowd. She was stunning, tall, with cascading red hair and a dress that looked like it cost more than Eva's life. She moved with the confidence of someone who owned the place. This was Lady Seraphina. Everyone knew of her. She was the alpha female of the southern clans, and the woman everyone expected Kaelen to marry. You found him, Seraphina said, her green eyes fixing on the bundle in Eva's arms. She didn't look happy. She looked calculating. I did, Kaelen said, his voice clipped. Seraphina walked up to Eva. She didn't look at Eva's face, she looked at the dirty coat. She wrinkled her nose. And who is this creature? Seraphina asked, a sneer curling her red lips. Surely you aren't letting a stray dog hold the future king? Careful, Seraphina, Kaelen warned, a low growl in his throat. I'm just concerned, Kaelen, she said, reaching out her hands toward the baby. Here, girl. Give him to me. I will take him to the nursery. Eva instinctively recoiled. The baby Lucian suddenly woke up. He let out a sharp, piercing cry the moment Seraphina's hands came near him. The mark on Eva's hand flared hot like a warning. Danger. Danger. He doesn't want to go, Eva said, her voice trembling but firm. Seraphina's eyes flashed with anger. How dare you speak to me? I am a highborn alpha. You are nothing. She lunged forward to snatch the baby. Frick. The sound echoed through the hall. Everyone froze. Kaelen had moved faster than the eye could follow. He stood between Seraphina and Eva, his hand gripping Seraphina's wrist tightly, stopping her inches from the child. I suggest, Kaelen whispered, his voice deadly quiet, that you do not touch her. She is a servant. Seraphina shrieked, trying to pull her arm free. She is the guardian, Kaelen roared, his voice booming off the walls, silencing the room. His golden eyes swept over the crowd. The mark has chosen her. Anyone who touches her, anyone who harms her, answers to me. He released Seraphina, pushing her back. She stumbled, her face pale with humiliation and rage. Kaelen turned back to Eva. He saw her shaking. He saw the terror in her eyes. Slowly, deliberately, he took off his heavy fur cloak. He draped it over Eva's shoulders, engulfing her in his scent, pine, snow, and pure dominance. It was a claim. A public declaration of protection. "Eat," Kaelen said softly, nodding to the servants bringing trays of food. "You're safe here, Eva. I promise." Eva looked at the furious Serafina, then up at the powerful king. She touched the soft fur of his cloak. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just the Omega in the snow. She was something else. But as she looked at Kaelen, she realized something terrifying. She wasn't just scared of the vipers in the court. She was scared of how safe she felt standing next to the monster who ruled them. Chapter 5. The Secret in the Blood. Night had fallen over the obsidian palace. Eva had been given a room. Not a servant's quarters, but a guest suite adjoining the king's chambers. It was larger than the entire cabin she grew up in. The bed was like a cloud, but Eva couldn't sleep. Baby Lucian was sleeping in a golden crib next to her bed. Every time she moved too far away, he would whimper and the mark on her hand would itch. She stood on the balcony looking out at the snowy peaks. "Can't sleep." Eva jumped. Kaelen was standing on the neighboring balcony, separated only by a low stone railing. He had shed his armor and formal wear. He wore a simple black shirt, the top buttons undone, revealing the corded muscle of his neck. "No, your majesty," she said, bowing her head. "Stop bowing," he sighed, leaning against the railing. "We are past that." He looked tired. For the first time, Eva saw the weight of the crown on him. "How is he?" Kaelen asked, nodding toward the room where Lucian slept. "He's peaceful. He likes the song I hummed." Kaelen was silent for a long moment. "His mother didn't sing." Eva bit her lip. She knew she shouldn't ask, but the question slipped out. "What happened to her?" "She died giving birth to him," Kaelen said, his voice flat. "Or so I was told. But the bond you have with him? It shouldn't be possible for a stranger." He climbed over the railing with effortless grace, landing on her balcony. Eva backed up against the glass door, her heart racing. "Let me see your hand," he said. Eva held it out. The golden mark was dim now, a soft hum of light. Kaelen took her hand in his. His skin was rough, calloused from holding a sword. He traced the lines of the mark with his thumb. The sensation sent shivers down Eva's spine. "This mark," Kaelen murmured, staring at it intensely. "It usually only appears on the mother. Or a fated mate." Eva's breath hitched. "But I am human. I have no wolf. I can't be a mate to an alpha, let alone a king." "That's what I thought," Kaelen said. He looked up, his golden eyes searching hers. "But my wolf is calm around you." "He hasn't been calm in years." He took a step closer. The air between them crackled with that strange electricity again. "Eva, who were your parents?" "I don't know," she whispered. "I was an orphan. Found in the woods near the border." Kaelen's eyes narrowed. "Near the Winterbane border?" "Yes." A strange expression crossed Kaelen's face. A mix of realization and horror. "The Winterbane pack was destroyed 20 years ago," he said slowly. "They were known for one thing. Their women were born without wolves, but they carried the blood of the moon goddess herself. They were the only ones who could calm the feral rage of the royal line." Eva shook her head. "I'm just a servant." "No," Kaelen said, his voice rough. "You are the reason my son is alive. And you might be the only reason I stay sane." Suddenly, the door to Eva's room burst open. A guard rushed in, panting, bleeding from a wound on his head. "Your Majesty." "Intruder. Someone is in the nursery." Kaelen's face transformed instantly from the thoughtful man to the savage beast. He roared, a sound that shook the glass, and sprinted into the room. Eva ran after him, her heart in her throat. They burst into the room. The crib was empty. The window was shattered. And on the floor, etched into the wood with a knife, was a message. "The false king shall fall. The heir is mine." Eva screamed. The mark on her hand turned black, and a pain worse than death tore through her chest. Lucian was gone. And this time Eva could feel his terror through the bond as if it were her own. Chapter 6. The Black Bond. Eva fell to her knees, a scream tearing from her throat that sounded more animal than human. It wasn't just fear. It was physical agony. The golden mark on her hand, which had pulsed with a warm, gentle light just hours ago, was now a void of swirling black ink. It felt like veins of ice were shooting up her arm, seizing her heart in a cold grip. Eva. Kaelen was at her side in an instant. He didn't look at the shattered window, he looked at her. "It hurts," she gasped, clutching her chest. He's so scared. I can feel him." Kaelen's face was a mask of terrifying fury, but his hands were gentle as he gripped her shoulders. "Focus on the feeling. Don't let the pain drown you. Where is he?" "I don't know," she sobbed, tears streaming down her face. "It's just cold. Darkness and cold." The palace alarm bells began to toll, a deep, mournful sound that echoed off the mountains. Boots thundered in the hallway as the royal guard swarmed the wing. "Lock the gates." Kaelen roared over his shoulder, his voice shaking the very foundations of the room. "No one leaves the mountain. If a single soul tries to cross the perimeter, kill them." He turned back to Eva. She was curling into a ball, shivering violently. The bond was trying to kill her. The distance between her and the air was stretching her soul thin. "I need you to stand," Kaelen commanded. It wasn't a request. "Eva, look at me." She forced her eyes open. The world was swimming, but Kaelen's golden eyes were an anchor. "My son is out there," Kaelen said, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. "Whoever took him had access to the inner sanctum. They are fast and they are covering their tracks. My wolves can't smell a trail through the blizzard." He pulled her up, wrapping an arm around her waist to support her weight. "But you," he said, looking at her blackened hand. "You are a living compass. You can feel him." "I can't walk," Eva whispered, her legs trembling. "The pain." "Then I will carry you." Without hesitation, the Alpha King swept her up into his arms. He didn't head for the door. He headed for the fireplace. He kicked the iron grate aside and pressed a hidden stone on the mantel. The back of the fireplace hissed and slid open, revealing a dark, spiraling stone staircase descending into the mountain. "The secret tunnels," Eva breathed against his neck. "Only the royal family knows of these," Kaelen said grimly, stepping into the darkness. "Which means the traitor is of my blood, or someone very close to it." He began to run down the stairs, moving with supernatural speed in the dark. Eva buried her face in his chest, the scent of him, rage and rain, filling her senses. "Which way?" Kaelen demanded as they hit a fork in the tunnel. Eva closed her eyes. She focused on the agony in her hand. The pain was sharper to the left. "Left," she gasped. "The pull, it's stronger that way." Kaelen didn't question her. He sprinted into the left tunnel. "Hold on, Lucian," Kaelen growled into the darkness. "Daddy is coming." Chapter 7. The Living Compass. The tunnels were a labyrinth of ancient stone and dripping water. It was the ventilation system for the mountain, blowing freezing drafts of air that smelled of sulfur and old earth. Kaelen had been running for 20 minutes without slowing down, his stamina inhuman. Eva was still in his arms. The pain in her hand had dulled to a throbbing ache, which meant they were getting closer. "Put me down," Eva whispered. "I can walk. You need to be ready to fight." Kaelen hesitated, then set her on her feet. He didn't let go of her arm, steadying her. "Stay behind me. Always." "Kaelen," she said, using his name without the title for the first time. "The mark. It's pulsing again." She held up her hand. The black ink was receding, replaced by a faint, frantic flicker of gold. "He's close," Kaelen said, sniffing the air. "I smell wet fur. And rot." They crept forward. The tunnel opened up into a massive underground cavern. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like jagged teeth. In the center of the cavern, a rushing underground river cut through the rock, its waters black and fast. And there, on the edge of the riverbank, stood a figure. He was cloaked in gray, holding a small basket. "Lucian." Eva's heart slammed against her ribs. She moved to shout, but Kaelen clamped a hand over her mouth, pulling her into the shadows of a rock formation. "Wait," he breathed into her ear. "Look at the water." Eva squinted. Emerging from the black water were three massive shapes. Rogues. Wolves who had been banished, their fur matted, their eyes wild with madness. The cloaked figure wasn't running from them. He was selling the baby to them. "The deal was gold," the cloaked figure said. His voice was raspy. "The deal has changed. One of the rogue wolves growled, shifting into a half-human form. The southern alpha pays more for the head of the heir. Eva felt Kaelen stiffen against her. The temperature in the cavern dropped 10 degrees. The rage radiating off him was so potent it tasted metallic in the air. "Stay here," Kaelen ordered, his voice devoid of all humanity. "No," Eva grabbed his wrist. The contact sent a jolt through them both. "If you go out there they might drop him in the river. You can't catch him in the water." Kaelen looked at the rushing black water. He was right. If the basket fell, the current would take Lucian under the mountain and he would drown instantly. "What do you suggest?" Kaelen asked, his jaw tight. "Distraction," Eva said, her hands shaking. "They don't know I'm here. They don't know about the bond. If I step out, the mark will flare. It will distract them for a second. No. It's too dangerous." "He is your son," Eva said, looking into his golden eyes. "And he is part of me now. Trust me." Kaelen looked at the rogues who were inching closer to the basket. He had no choice. "1 second, Kaelen said. "You buy me 1 second. And then you drop to the ground." Eva nodded. She took a deep breath, stepped out from behind the rock and raised her hand high. Chapter 8. Betrayal in the Shadows. "Hey!" Eva's voice rang out, echoing off the cavern walls. The cloaked figure and the 3 rogues whipped their heads toward her. Eva didn't just stand there. She pushed her will into the mark on her palm. She didn't know how she did it. It was instinct, like flexing a muscle she forgot she had. "Call to him." The mark exploded with light. A beam of pure golden energy shot from her hand, cutting through the gloom and hitting the basket. The basket glowed in response. Baby Lucian let out a loud cry. "What sorcery is this?" the cloaked figure shrieked, shielding his eyes. "Now!" Eva screamed, dropping flat to the stone floor. A black blur shot over her head. Kaelen didn't shift into a wolf. He didn't have time. He hit the nearest rogue in human form, the force of the impact sounding like a thunderclap. He didn't stop. He moved like a whirlwind of death, a blade flashing in his hand. The first rogue went down with a slashed throat before he could even lift a claw. The second rogue lunged for the basket. "No." Eva scrambled up, ignoring Kaelen's order to stay down. She ran toward the basket. The rogue's claws were inches from the fabric. Eva threw herself over the basket, curling her body around it as a shield. She waited for the pain of claws tearing into her back. It never came. A wet tear and a crunch of bones sounded above her. She looked up to see Kaelen standing over her, his hand wrapped around the rogue's throat. With a simple, brutal twist, he snapped the beast's neck and tossed the body into the rushing river. Silence fell over the cavern. Kaelen stood there, chest heaving, blood that wasn't his dripping from his hands. He turned slowly to the cloaked figure who was now backing away toward the tunnel exit. "You," Kaelen said. The figure turned to run, but Kaelen picked up a jagged rock and threw it with terrifying precision. It struck the figure in the leg. The man collapsed with a howl of pain. Kaelen walked over, dragging the man by his collar back toward the light of Eva's glowing hand. He ripped the hood back. Eva gasped. It was the royal steward. The man who had served Kaelen's family for 30 years. The man who had poured Eva's tea just hours ago. "Why?" Kaelen asked. His voice was so quiet it was scary. "The South." The steward wheezed, clutching his leg. "Lady Seraphina, she promised. My family's debts." "Seraphina," Kaelen looked at Eva, a grim confirmation in his eyes. "She wanted the baby gone," the steward spat. "She said you were weak. Obsessed with a dead wife and a glowing brat. The pack needs a real queen." Kaelen stared at the man for a long moment. "You are right. The pack does need a queen. But it will never be her." Kaelen knocked the man unconscious with a single blow. He would be interrogated later. For now, the priority was the bundle in Eva's arms. Kaelen turned to Eva. She was still on the ground, clutching the basket. He fell to his knees in front of her. "Is he hurt?" Kaelen asked, his hands hovering over the baby. Eva pulled back the blanket. Lucian was wide awake, his violet eyes staring up at them. He wasn't crying anymore. He was reaching for Eva's face. "He's cold," Eva said, "but he's safe." Kaelen let out a breath that sounded like a sob. He leaned his forehead against Eva's, closing his eyes. "You threw yourself in front of a rogue," he murmured. "You foolish, brave girl." Eva felt the heat of his skin against hers. Her heart was hammering a frantic rhythm. I couldn't let them take him. I know, Kaelen whispered. He pulled back, looking at her with an intensity that made her weak. Let's go home. Chapter 9, The Ice Caves. The journey back up the tunnels was slower. Kaelen carried the unconscious traitor over one shoulder, while his other hand held Eva's arm tightly, guiding her. Eva carried Lucian tucked safely inside her coat to share her body heat. By the time they reached the secret entrance behind the fireplace, dawn was breaking. Kaelen kicked the mechanism and the wall slid open. They stepped into the warmth of the king's chambers. Guards! Kaelen roared. The doors burst open. The captain of the guard rushed in, eyes widening as he saw the blood on his king and the unconscious steward on the floor. Take him to the dungeons, Kaelen ordered, dropping the body. Deep cells. No one speaks to him but me. If he dies before I get answers, you all die. The guards dragged the traitor away. Kaelen turned and locked the door. He slumped against it for a second, the adrenaline finally fading, leaving exhaustion in its wake. Eva sat on the edge of the bed, unwrapping Lucian. The baby was fussy, hungry. We need a wet nurse, Eva said. No, Kaelen pushed off the door. No more strangers. No more staff. I don't trust anyone. He needs to eat, Kaelen. Kaelen went to a small icebox in the corner of the room where formula was kept for emergencies. He prepared a bottle with practiced, albeit shaking, hands. He brought it to Eva. She fed the baby, the silence in the room heavy and intimate. You realize what this means, Kaelen said, watching the milk disappear. Serafina is behind this. But she is the alpha of the southern clans. Accusing her without proof causes a civil war. The steward confessed, Eva pointed out. Under duress. She will deny it. She will say I paid him to lie. Kaelen ran a hand through his dark hair. She wants me to attack her. If I strike first, the council will view me as the aggressor. They will strip me of the crown. So she gets away with it? Eva asked, anger flaring in her chest. No, Kaelen walked over to the window, looking out at the snowy kingdom. But I cannot fight her with claws right now. I have to fight her with politics. He turned back to Eva. And that involves you. Eva lowered the bottle. Lucian was asleep, milk drunk. Me? I'm a servant. Not anymore. The court saw the mark. They know you are the guardian. If I send you away, I look weak. If I keep you... He walked over to her, stopping just inches away. If I keep you, I have to elevate you. You cannot be a servant. You have to be more. More. Eva swallowed hard. My court expects a queen, Kaelen said softly. Serafina thinks she is the only option. We need to prove her wrong. Eva's eyes went wide. You want me to pretend? I want you to survive, Kaelen corrected. And I want my son to live. As long as Serafina thinks she has a chance at the throne, she will keep trying to kill Lucian. But if the position is filled... You are asking me to marry you, Eva whispered. A fake marriage. Kaelen looked at the mark on her hand, then at the baby sleeping in her arms. There is nothing fake about the bond you share with my son, Eva. You are already the mother of his spirit. Being his mother by law is just paperwork. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her cheek. And as for us... Kaelen's voice dropped an octave. We will see. Chapter 10, The Trinity Mark. The morning sun hit the balcony, turning the snow into a blinding sheet of white. Eva stood in front of the tall mirror in the guest suite. Several maids, new ones vetted personally by Kaelen, were fussing over her. They had stripped her of her gray servant rags. Now she wore a dress of deep midnight blue velvet, trimmed with silver fur. It was the colors of the royal house. Hold still, my lady, one maid said, pinning a silver brooch to Eva's shoulder. My lady. The title sounded foreign. The door opened and the maids immediately bowed and scurried out. Kaelen entered. He was dressed in his formal alpha regalia, black military-style tunic with gold braiding, a heavy cape and the sword at his hip. He looked every inch the king. He stopped when he saw her. His eyes swept over her form, lingering on the way the blue velvet hugged her waist. You clean up well, he murmured. I feel like I'm wearing a costume, Eva admitted, smoothing the skirt. It is armor, Kaelen corrected. We are going to the council meeting. Serafina will be there. She expects me to be grieving. She expects chaos. He walked over to her. Give me your hand. Eva extended her right hand. The mark was calm today, a faint golden tattoo against her skin. Kaelen pulled a small box from his pocket. He opened it. Inside sat a ring, a massive sapphire surrounded by diamonds that looked like wolf teeth. This was my mother's, Kaelen said. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. As the metal touched her skin, something strange happened. The mark on her palm moved. The ink swirled, extending from her palm, wrapping around her finger and connecting with the ring. A pulse of energy shot through the room. Kaelen gasped, gripping her hand tight. Did you feel that? It felt like a lock clicking into place, Eva whispered. The Trinity, Kaelen said, his eyes wide. The stories say the mark changes when the circle is complete. Father, mother, child. But I'm not. Eva started. The magic thinks you are, Kaelen said intensely. Or it wants you to be. He didn't let go of her hand. He brought it up to his lips, kissing the knuckles right above the ring. Eva's breath hitched. It was a gesture of courtly respect, but the heat of his lips was anything but formal. Show no fear, Eva, Kaelen whispered against her skin. Walk like you own the ground beneath your feet. Because as of this moment, you are the Alpha's intended. He offered her his arm. Eva took a deep breath. She thought of the baby sleeping in the next room, guarded by 6 wolves. She thought of the steward and the knife. She thought of Serafina's sneer. She took Kaelen's arm. Let's go, she said. They walked out of the room, down the grand staircase and toward the council chamber doors. The guards threw the doors open. Hundreds of heads turned. Lady Serafina was standing near the front, a smirk playing on her lips, ready to offer false condolences. Her smirk vanished instantly when she saw Eva on the king's arm, wearing the royal sapphire. Kaelen led Eva to the dais. He didn't sit on the throne immediately. He stood before the council, his voice booming like thunder. Lords and ladies of the court, Kaelen announced. You have asked for a queen. I present to you Eva, the guardian of the heir and my future bride. The room erupted. But Eva didn't flinch. She squeezed Kaelen's arm and for the first time she smiled. A sharp, dangerous smile. Let the game begin. Chapter 11. The Court's Venom. The silence in the council chamber was heavy enough to crush bones. Eva stood on the dais, her arm linked with Kaelen's. She could feel the tremors of rage radiating from him, though his face remained a mask of cool indifference. Below them, the Council of Elders, 12 ancient wolves representing the strongest families, stared up in varying shades of shock and disdain. A servant. The words cut through the air like a whip. It was Lord Vane, a staunch ally of Serafina. He stepped forward, his lip curling. You mock our traditions, King Kaelen. You cannot mate with a wolf-less scrubber and expect the packs to bow to her. I expect the packs to bow to their king, Kaelen rumbled, his voice dropping to a warning growl. And to the woman chosen by the heir. The heir is an infant. Serafina shouted, abandoning her grace. She marched to the center of the room, her red dress swirling like blood. He does not choose. This girl has clearly used some hedge witchery to trick you. Look at her. She smells of bleach and poverty. Eva's grip on Kaelen's arm tightened. She wanted to shrink away to hide. But she remembered Kaelen's words. Show no fear. She stepped forward, releasing Kaelen's arm. The movement surprised everyone, including the king. I may smell of poverty, Lady Serafina, Eva said, her voice shaking slightly before finding its strength. Because I have spent my life cleaning the messes of highborn wolves who think they are gods. Gasps rippled through the room. A servant talking back to an alpha female? Eva raised her right hand. The sapphire ring glinted, but it was the golden mark beneath it that drew every eye. It pulsed with a steady, rhythmic light. You call this trickery? Eva challenged. The mark of the kings? If I were a witch, the fire of the royal line would have burned me to ash. I am still standing. Which means the moon goddess accepted me. She looked directly at Lord Vane. Do you question the goddess, my lord? Vane opened his mouth, then snapped it shut. To question the goddess was heresy. Kaelen stepped up beside her, his chest swelling with pride. He placed a possessive hand on her lower back. The wedding will be held in 1 month, Kaelen announced, his tone final. Until then, Eva is under the protection of the crown. Any insult to her is a challenge to me. Does anyone wish to challenge me for the throne right now? He placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. His golden eyes swept the room, daring them. Silence. Even Seraphina, trembling with fury, lowered her eyes. "No, your majesty," she spat. "We await the union with great anticipation." "Dismissed," Kaelen barked. As the court shuffled out, whispering frantically, Kaelen turned to Eva. The moment the doors closed, his stoic mask crumbled, replaced by a grin of genuine disbelief. "You," he shook his head, "are dangerous." "I was terrified," Eva admitted, her knees finally giving way. Kaelen caught her before she fell. "You didn't look it. You looked like a queen." He held her there for a moment longer than necessary. The heat of his hands burned through the velvet of her dress. "1 month," Eva whispered. "Can we really pull off a fake wedding in 1 month?" Kaelen's smile faded. He looked at her lips, then up to her eyes. "We have to. Because Seraphina won't wait that long to strike again." Chapter 12. The First Dance. The engagement ball was mandatory. Kaelen hated it. Eva was terrified of it. The ballroom was a sea of silk, jewels, and judgment. Every high-ranking wolf in the Northern Territory was there to see the servant queen. Eva wore a gown of silver silk that shimmered like moonlight. It was backless, revealing the smooth curve of her spine, but covered her arms in delicate lace. Kaelen wore formal white military dress, looking devastatingly handsome. "Just follow my lead," Kaelen whispered as the music started. "Don't look at them. Look at me." He bowed, taking her hand. A shiver went through the crowd as they stepped onto the floor. As they began to waltz, Eva felt stiff. She was counting her steps, terrified of tripping. "Relax," Kaelen murmured, pulling her closer. His hand on her waist was firm, guiding her effortlessly. "You are thinking too much. Feel the music." "I'm trying not to step on your royal toes," Eva hissed back. Kaelen chuckled, a deep, rich sound that vibrated against her chest. "I've had worse injuries. Trust me." He spun her around. For a second the world blurred. The sneering faces of the court disappeared. There was only the music, the warmth of Kaelen's body, and the scent of pine and rain. "They are staring," Eva whispered. "Let them stare," Kaelen said, his eyes locking onto hers. "Let them see that I am obsessed with you." "Are you supposed to be?" "Ideally, yes. To sell the lie." Kaelen lowered his head, his lips brushing her ear. "I need to look like I can't live without you. Like I would burn the world down if you asked." Eva's breath hitched. "And how do you do that?" "Like this." Kaelen stopped the dance. In front of 500 guests, he lifted her hand to his lips, kissing the palm where the mark lay hidden. Then he moved his hand to her cheek, his thumb tracing her jawline with a tenderness that felt shockingly real. "You are breathtaking tonight, Eva," he said, loud enough for the nearby couples to hear. But then he dropped his voice to a whisper only she could catch. "And I am not acting." Eva's heart skipped a beat. She looked up at him, searching for the lie, but his golden eyes were dark, swirling with an emotion she couldn't name. Across the room, standing by the punch bowl, Lady Seraphina watched them. She wasn't sneering anymore. She was smiling. A cold, reptilian smile. She raised a glass of red wine in a mock toast. Kaelen stiffened, sensing the threat. "Stay close to me," he commanded, breaking the spell. "The dance is over. The wolves are circling." Chapter 13. The Poisoned Gift. The morning after the ball, gifts began to arrive. Piles of them. Silks from the east, gold from the west. It was customary for the packs to send tribute to the future queen. Eva sat in the nursery watching Lucian play with a wooden wolf. Kaelen was in a meeting with his generals, discussing border security. "Hi, lady," a young maid entered, carrying a beautifully wrapped box. "This just arrived. It has no card, but the wrapping is royal velvet." Eva stood up. "Thank you, Mara." "Set it on the table." The maid left. Eva approached the box. It was elegant, tied with a silver ribbon. She reached out to untie it. Burn. The moment her fingers grazed the ribbon, the mark on her palm flared with a sharp, stinging heat. It wasn't the warm glow of the bond. It was the warning sting she had felt in the forest. Eva snatched her hand back. "No." He looked at Lucian. The baby had stopped playing. He was staring at the box, his violet eyes wide and fearful. He started to whimper. Eva grabbed Lucian and ran to the door. Guards. 2 heavily armored wolves burst in. "Pie lady." "That box," Eva pointed, backing away. "Don't touch it. Get the king. Now." Kaelen arrived 2 minutes later, his sword already drawn. "Where is it?" Eva pointed to the table. "The mark burned when I touched it. And Lucian is scared of it." Kaelen didn't hesitate. "Clear the room." He approached the box cautiously. He didn't use his hands. He used the tip of his sword to slice the ribbon and flip the lid open. Inside, nestled on a bed of black satin, was a beautiful, intricate silver rattle. It looked like a harmless toy. But as the air hit it, a faint purple mist began to rise from the silver. "Wolfsbane," Kaelen hissed, covering his nose and backing away. "Concentrated nightshade and wolfsbane. Vaporized." If Eva had opened that box with Lucian in her arms, the gas would have filled the room. It would have killed the baby in seconds. It would have killed her too. "Seraphina," Eva whispered, clutching Lucian so tight he squeaked. "She is getting sloppy," Kaelen said, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. "She tried to kill my son in his own nursery." He turned to the guards. "Take this box to the alchemist. I want proof of the poison. And double the guard on Eva. She goes to the bathroom, you stand at the door. Do you understand?" "Yes, Alpha." Kaelen walked over to Eva. He didn't care about the poison gas lingering in the air. He wrapped his arms around her and the baby, burying his face in her hair. "I'm sorry," he groaned. "I should have checked the gifts. I almost lost you." Eva felt him shaking. The mighty Alpha King was shaking. "You didn't," she soothed him, rubbing his back. "The mark warned me. We are safe." "Not safe enough," Kaelen pulled back, his eyes hard. "I'm done waiting for the wedding. We are going to the archives." "Why?" "Because," Kaelen said, "Seraphina is attacking you because she thinks you are a weak no-name servant. It is time we found out who you really are." Chapter 14. Whispers of the Past. The royal archives were buried deep beneath the palace. A massive library of stone tablets and leather-bound books that smelled of dust and time. Kaelen led Eva to the genealogy section. "You said you were found near the Winterbane border," Kaelen said, pulling a thick black book from a shelf. 20 years ago." "Yes. A patrol found me wrapped in a fur coat. No note." Kaelen opened the book. "The Fall of Winterbane." Winterbane was a unique pack, Kaelen explained, turning the pages. They were isolationists, extremely religious. They believed the moon goddess spoke directly to their women. Their alpha line was powerful, but... He stopped at a portrait. It was a painting of a man and a woman. The man was huge with wild gray hair. The woman was petite with soft features and... Eva gasped. The woman in the painting looked exactly like her. Same dark hair. Same eyes. Even the shape of her nose was identical. "That is Alpha Thorn," Kaelen said, pointing to the man. "And his mate Luna Selene." He read the text below. Alpha Thorn and Luna Selene perished in the Rogue War. Their infant daughter, Eva, was presumed dead, lost in the chaos of the burning pack house. Eva stared at the name. "Eva. I didn't have a name when they found me," Eva whispered. "The orphanage matron named me Eva because she said I looked like moonlight." "Or," Kaelen said softly, "because the blanket you were found in had the name stitched into it and she forgot to tell you." He looked at her with a new respect. "You are not a servant, Eva. You are the sole surviving heir of the Winterbane pack. You are an alpha by blood." "But I have no wolf," she argued. "I am latent." Winterbane women didn't shift. Kaelen tapped the page. "Read this. The women of Winterbane sacrifice their beast to house the spirit. They don't turn into wolves because their bodies are vessels for pure magic. That is why you can bond with the heir. That is why the mark didn't kill you." Eva leaned against the table, her head spinning. All her life she had been treated like dirt. Like a mistake. And all this time she was a lost princess of a fallen kingdom. "This changes everything," Kaelen said, a tactical light entering his eyes. "Seraphina attacks you because she thinks you are a peasant. If we reveal your lineage, if we prove you are the Winterbane heir, the Northern Council will have to respect you. The Winterbane name is holy to them." "How do we prove it?" Eva asked. "A painting isn't enough. We need the bloodstone," Kaelen said. "It's a relic kept in the Temple of the Moon. If you touch it and you are of alpha blood, it will sing. He slammed the book shut. Tomorrow, he vowed. Tomorrow we go to the temple. And we end Seraphina's claim once and for all. Chapter 15. The Assassin. The storm that night was worse than the one in which Eva had found Lucian. Thunder shook the obsidian palace, rattling the windows in their frames. Eva couldn't sleep. The revelation of her parents haunted her. She wasn't a nobody. She was Eva of Winterbane. Kaelen was in the command center, coordinating the patrol shifts for the trip to the temple tomorrow. Eva was alone in the royal suite with Lucian. The candle by her bedside flickered. Then it went out. Eva sat up instantly. The air in the room had changed. It wasn't just the wind. The door to the balcony, which was locked and bolted, was open. A flash of lightning illuminated the room. Standing at the foot of the bed was a figure dressed in a suit that shimmered like oil. An assassin. And not just any assassin. A shadow dancer. Mercenaries who could move through shadows. He held a dagger that dripped with green liquid. Eva didn't scream. She grabbed the lamp from her bedside table and smashed it against the wall. Crash. The sound was a signal. But the assassin moved fast. He lunged for the crib. No. Eva threw herself across the bed, intercepting him. She didn't have a weapon. She didn't have a wolf. But she had the mark. As the assassin's blade came down, Eva threw up her right hand. Thick. The mark flared with blinding intensity. It didn't shoot a beam this time. It created a shield, a translucent golden barrier of energy. The dagger hit the barrier with a deafening clang and shattered. The assassin recoiled, stunned. He had never seen magic like this. Eva didn't wait. She kicked out, landing a blow on his knee. He grunted but grabbed her ankle, dragging her off the bed. She hit the floor hard. The assassin was on top of her in a second, his hands closing around her throat. Die, witch, he hissed. Eva clawed at his mask, her vision spotting. She couldn't breathe. The golden shield flickered and died as her consciousness faded. Bang. The bedroom door didn't open. It exploded inward. A massive black wolf, larger than any normal timber wolf, barreled into the room. He hit the assassin with the force of a freight train. There was a sickening crunch as the assassin's ribs gave way. Kaelen didn't stop. He mauled the intruder, tossing him across the room like a rag doll. The assassin tried to merge with the shadows to escape, but Kaelen was too fast. He shifted back to human form mid-air, grabbing the assassin by the throat and slamming him against the stone wall. Who sent you? Kaelen roared, his voice distorted by the lingering shift. The assassin gurgled, blood running down his chin. He smirked beneath his mask. Then he bit down on something in his mouth. Poison. His body went limp instantly. Kaelen dropped the corpse and spun around. Eva. She was sitting on the floor, gasping for air, rubbing her bruised neck. Kaelen fell to his knees before her. He didn't ask if she was okay. He grabbed her face, tilting her head back to inspect the bruises forming on her throat. I'm going to kill them all, Kaelen whispered, tears of rage in his eyes. I will burn the South to the ground. Kaelen, Eva rasped, placing a hand on his chest. His heart was beating so fast it felt like a hummingbird. I used the mark. I made a shield. Kaelen stared at her. He looked at the shattered dagger on the floor. You defended the pack, he said, all mixing with his horror. He pulled her into his lap, rocking her back and forth. I thought I was too late. He buried his face in her neck. When I heard the glass break, my heart stopped. Eva held him. And in that moment she realized something. The way he was holding her. The sheer terror in his voice. This wasn't for the show. This wasn't for the council or Seraphina. The Alpha King had fallen in love with her. And looking at the man who had just torn a killer apart to save her, Eva realized she was falling too. Chapter 16. The Path of Wolves. The convoy to the Temple of the Moon looked more like an army marching to war than a royal procession. Kaelen wasn't taking any chances. 50 of his elite royal guards surrounded the carriage. Overhead, scouts patrolled the ridges. Inside the reinforced steel carriage, the air was thick with tension. Eva sat with Lucian on her lap. She was dressed in white, the color of a supplicant visiting the temple. But beneath the silk, she wore a vest of light chainmail Kaelen had insisted upon. You are quiet, Kaelen said. He was cleaning his sword, a rhythmic shing-shing sound that usually soothed him, but today his hands were tight. I'm afraid, Eva admitted. She looked out the window at the passing snow-covered pines. What if the book was wrong? What if I touch the stone and nothing happens? The council will laugh at us. Seraphina will win. Kaelen sheathed his sword with a sharp click. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Then we fight, he said simply. If the stone rejects you, I will declare war on the south before the sun sets. I will not let them touch you. You would start a civil war for a servant? I would burn the world for my mate, Kaelen corrected her. The word hung in the air. Mate. He hadn't said future wife or intended. He said mate. The wolf's term. The forever term. Eva felt heat rise in her cheeks. We haven't. The bond hasn't snapped yet. My wolf knows. Kaelen reached out, taking her hand. He didn't kiss it this time. He just held it, grounding her. The paper, the politics, the stone. It's all noise, Eva. You are mine. And I am yours. The carriage slowed to a halt. We are here, Your Majesty, the driver called out. Eva looked out. The Temple of the Moon sat atop the highest peak, a structure of white marble and ice that seemed to grow out of the mountain itself. It was beautiful and intimidating. But as they stepped out into the biting wind, Eva realized they weren't alone. Lined up on the temple steps were hundreds of wolves in red cloaks. The Southern Army. And standing at the top of the stairs, looking down like a goddess of war, was Seraphina. She held a staff of dark wood, and her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Welcome, Kaelen, she called down, her voice carried by the wind. We have been waiting for you to bring the impostor. Kaelen drew his sword, the metal singing in the cold air. Stand aside, Seraphina. Or bleed. Such aggression, Seraphina tooted. We are only here to witness the truth. If she is truly of Winterbane blood, you have nothing to fear. But if she lies... Seraphina gestured to the army behind her. Then justice will be swift. Kaelen stepped in front of Eva, shielding her body with his. Walk behind me, he ordered. Do not stop walking. They began the ascent. Every step was a challenge. The southern wolves growled, snapping their jaws as Kaelen passed, but none dared to strike first. Not yet. They reached the massive temple doors. The high priest, an old wolf with blind eyes, stood by the altar. In the center of the room sat the bloodstone, a jagged meteorite that pulsed with a faint, heartbeat-like rhythm. Who seeks the judgment of the moon? The priest rasped. Eva of the Winterbane, Kaelen announced, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. Then step forward, the priest said, and let the goddess decide. Chapter 17. The Judgment of Stone. The temple was silent. Even Seraphina and her generals who had crowded into the entrance held their breath. Eva handed Lucian to Kaelen. Her hands were shaking. She walked toward the stone. It looked innocent, just a rock. But she could feel the power radiating from it, a hum that vibrated in her teeth. Please, she prayed silently. For Lucian. For Kaelen. She reached out. Her fingertips brushed the rough surface. For a second nothing happened. Seraphina let out a loud, mocking laugh. See? I told you. A common rat. But then a sound began. A low, melodic thrumming like a cello string being plucked. The bloodstone turned white. Then silver. Then a blinding beam of blue light shot upward, hitting the crystal ceiling and scattering rainbows across the entire temple. The light didn't stop there. It flowed into Eva. Her hair lifted as if caught in a wind. Her eyes glowed with the same blue light. And behind her, a spectral image formed. Not a wolf, but a woman made of starlight, embracing her. The spirit of the Winterbane. The high priest fell to his knees. The lost line. The pure blood. The council members gasped, bowing their heads instantly. This was undeniable proof. She wasn't just a highborn, she was royalty from a line thought extinct. The light faded, leaving Eva gasping, her skin tingling. It is done, Kaelen said, his voice ringing with triumph. He turned to the crowd. Behold your queen. Lies. Seraphina screamed. Her composure shattered. She slammed her staff onto the ground. It's a trick. She is using dark magic. It is the goddess's will, the high priest shouted. The goddess is dead. Seraphina shrieked. I am the power here. She whistled. A high, piercing sound. From the shadows of the temple pillars, crossbowmen emerged. They weren't aiming at Kaelen. They were aiming at Eva. Kill her, Serafina ordered. Shields. Kaelen roared, throwing himself toward Eva. Whack, whack. Bolts flew. Kaelen caught one on his shoulder armor, the impact spinning him around. Another bolt hit the high priest, who fell with a cry. Treason! Lord Vane shouted, drawing his sword to defend the king. Chaos erupted. The southern wolves drew their blades. The royal guard clashed with them on the temple steps. The holy sanctuary turned into a slaughterhouse. Get to the back. Kaelen yelled, grabbing Eva with his good arm. He shoved Lucian into her arms. There is an exit behind the altar. I'm not leaving you. Eva screamed over the clash of steel. You have the heir. Kaelen snarled, his eyes flashing gold. He turned to face a charging group of southern soldiers. Go. Eva hesitated, looking at Kaelen fighting 3 men at once. Then she looked at the baby in her arms. She ran. But not to the exit. She ran to the altar. Chapter 18, Fire and Ice. Eva didn't know how to fight with a sword. She didn't have claws. But she had the bloodstone. And she had the mark. She placed her hand, the one with the king's mark, onto the glowing bloodstone. Help us, she screamed, pouring every ounce of her will into the stone. The reaction was catastrophic. The stone didn't just glow. It screamed. A shock wave of pure energy blasted outward from the altar. It knocked the combatants off their feet. The southern wolves, who were attacking with malice, were thrown back violently against the walls. The royal guards protecting the king felt only a warm breeze. The magic knew the difference between friend and foe. Kaelen looked back, stunned. Eva stood at the altar, her hand raised, the air around her freezing into jagged spikes of ice. The Winterbane magic. Get them. Serafina yelled, struggling to her feet. She's draining herself. Attack now. 5 large wolves lunged at Eva. Kaelen roared, shifting mid-stride into his massive black wolf form. He intercepted the lead wolf, his jaws snapping its spine. He was a blur of rage and fur, a protective demon guarding his mate. But there were too many of them. One of Serafina's generals skirted around Kaelen and lunged for Eva. Eva held up her hand. The golden barrier flickered. She was exhausted. The general's sword shattered the shield and sliced into her arm. Ah! Eva cried out, clutching Lucian tight as she fell back. The scent of Eva's blood hit the air. And that changed everything. It wasn't Kaelen who reacted first. It was Lucian. The baby in her arms opened his eyes. They weren't violet anymore. They were burning white fire. The baby let out a wail, not of fear but of command. The general who had cut Eva suddenly froze. He grabbed his head, screaming as if his brain were on fire. He collapsed, convulsing. The alpha tone, Kaelen gasped, shifting back to human form as he reached them. The baby, he's using the alpha command. Lucian was projecting pure dominance. It was raw, uncontrolled, and powerful enough to bring grown wolves to their knees. The southern army faltered. They were wolves. They were biologically programmed to submit to an alpha of that power level. They dropped their weapons, clutching their ears, whining. Only Serafina remained standing. She was wearing a necklace that glowed with purple light, a talisman protecting her from mental attacks. I will kill you myself, she screamed, pulling a dagger from her boot and charging at Eva. Kaelen was too far away. Eva looked up. She didn't flinch. Kaelen, she yelled. The Trinity. She held out her hand. Kaelen understood instantly. He lunged not at Serafina but at Eva. He grabbed her hand. Father, mother, child. The circuit closed. A pillar of golden fire erupted from the 3 of them. It hit Serafina like a physical wall. She was lifted off her feet, thrown through the air and slammed through the massive oak doors of the temple, tumbling down the snowy steps outside. Chapter 19. The Fall of the Serpent. Silence returned to the temple. The golden light faded slowly. Eva collapsed against Kaelen, gasping for air. Lucian had fallen asleep instantly, the energy expenditure exhausting him. Kaelen held them both, his chest heaving. He looked around. The southern army was on its knees. Heads bowed. They weren't fighting anymore. They had felt the power of the true Alpha family. To fight against that was suicide. Kaelen stood up, helping Eva to her feet. He walked to the broken doors and looked down the steps. Serafina lay in the snow. She was broken, bleeding, and defeated. Her red dress was torn, her necklace shattered. Kaelen walked down the steps, his boots crunching in the snow. The council members followed timidly. Seraphina looked up, hate still burning in her eyes. "Do it," she spat. "Kill me. Make me a martyr." Kaelen drew his sword. He placed the tip against her throat. "Death is too easy," Kaelen said coldly. "You wanted power? You wanted to rule." He looked at the southern soldiers watching from the temple. "I strip you of your rank," Kaelen announced, his voice booming. "I strip you of your lands. And I strip you of your wolf." Seraphina's eyes went wide with true terror. "No. Kaelen, please. For the crime of treason, attempted regicide and the kidnapping of the heir," Kaelen intoned, "I sentence you to the silent cells. You will live the rest of your life in the dark, alone with your thoughts. Take her away." 2 guards dragged the screaming woman away. Kaelen sheathed his sword. He turned back to Eva, who was standing at the top of the stairs, clutching Lucian. The wind blew her hair back and the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating her. He walked back up to her. He didn't care about the watching army. He didn't care about the council. He took her face in his hands. "Are you hurt?" he asked, looking at the cut on her arm. "It's just a scratch," Eva smiled, though tears were running down her face. "Is it over?" "Yes," Kaelen whispered. "It's over." He leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a show. It was a promise. It was soft, desperate, and filled with a love that had survived poison, assassins, and war. The Council of Elders knelt. The Royal Guard knelt. The Southern Army knelt. "Long live the king!" Lord Vane shouted. "Long live the queen!" The crowd roared back. Eva buried her face in Kaelen's chest. She wasn't a servant. She wasn't a fake. She was home. Chapter 20. The Moon Queen. 1 month later. The obsidian palace was unrecognizable. The dark, gloomy halls were draped in white silk and silver flowers. It was the coronation. And the wedding. Eva stood in front of the mirror. Her dress was no longer a costume. It was a gown of white lace and diamonds with a train that flowed like water. On her head sat a crown, not heavy gold but delicate platinum woven with moonstones. "You look." Kaelen's voice came from the doorway. Eva turned. Kaelen was leaning against the doorframe, already dressed in his ceremonial blacks. He looked breathtaking. "Like a queen." Eva finished for him. "Like my queen," Kaelen corrected. He walked over, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder as he looked at their reflection. "Lucian is with the nurse," Kaelen murmured. "He is trying to eat his little tuxedo." Eva laughed. "He's growing so fast. He walked yesterday." "He chased the cat," Kaelen grinned. "He has his father's hunting instinct." "And his mother's stubbornness," Eva added. Kaelen turned her around. His expression grew serious. He took her right hand. The mark was still there, but it had changed. It was no longer just a crown and wolf. It was a trinity knot, 3 loops interwoven perfectly. "I never believed in fate," Kaelen said softly. "After my first wife died, I thought the goddess had cursed me. I thought my heart was dead." He kissed her palm. "But then a servant girl walked into the snow and picked up a dying baby," Kaelen whispered, his eyes shining with emotion. "And she saved us both." "I love you, Kaelen," Eva said, her heart overflowing. "I love you, Eva. Until the moon falls from the sky." The bells began to ring. The kingdom was waiting. "Ready." Kaelen offered his arm. Eva took a deep breath. She thought of the cold attic where she used to sleep. She thought of the fear, the hunger, and the loneliness. And then she looked at the man who worshipped her and the life they had built. "Ready," she said. They walked out onto the balcony. Below them, thousands of people cheered. Wolves howled in joy. It was a sound of unity, of peace, and of a new beginning. Kaelen raised Eva's hand high. She wasn't the girl who found a baby in the snow anymore. She was the guardian, the mother, the queen. And as the sun set over the mountains, painting the snow in shades of gold and pink, Eva knew that this was not just a fairy tale. It was her life. And it was perfect.